Hello, guys. Welcome to Think Africa, a show where we bring you the latest news from Africa. Because if there's one thing you should be thinking about, that should be Africa. So let's get on with our first story for today. So, our first story for today is from the Sahel, and the headline says Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso to move towards monetary alliance, Niger leader says. Yeah, that Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali are working towards a monetary alliance. Like, I think they want to have a common currency. So let's see a little bit more of what the story is talking about. Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso are eyeing a political and monetary alliance. Niger's military leader said on national television of a move that could make a further break with the West African regional bloc. Niger's General Abdulrahman Tiani did not give a timeline or details about the project, but said it was one of the reasons for his recent visit to both countries. In addition to a security domain, our alliance must evolve in the political domain and in the monetary domain, he said in an interview on Niger's RTS channel late on Sunday. So let me just say about this story, okay? I think it's a very, very important move. It's high time that Africa start doing things for themselves. It's high time that Africans start realizing that we have a lot of potentials and we can do things by ourselves. We have to stop relying on foreigners, on outsiders to do things for us. I don't know how long I have to emphasize this, but I think this move by the Sahel nations is an excellent one and is something that all of us, the Africans, must celebrate. The Sahel nations are being very proactive, and I particularly love it. It's high time we get away with the France TFA. Because how can you explain this, right? West African French-speaking countries and the Central African French-speaking countries are using the CFA franc, right? The West Africa and Central African franc. That currency is being produced by France, and the countries that are using it need to pay for tax for using the currency. They need to pay for the printing. They need to pay for transportation. But France itself is not using that currency. France is using the euro. So what is the point for independent countries to be using a currency that is controlled and printed by another country? What is really the point? So I believe that this move by the Sahel nations to come up with some kind of like monetary alliance is a great thing. I think a common currency for all three Sahel states will go a long way. But let's get to our second story for today. Chadian Referendum calls for mass voting amidst controversy. Yeah, Chad is organizing a referendum for a constitutional is it change. I don't know why most countries in Africa do this, but let's see what the story is talking about. Chadians participated in a crucial referendum on Sunday, marked by both calls for mass participation and widespread controversy. The referendum is intended to decide on a new constitution, seen as a crucial step towards holding elections and restoring civilian rule, a promise made 2.5 years ago by military junta but delayed until late 2024. I wonder why they are having the constitutional change. But if I may suggest, I would think that there will be some clause in the constitution that will permit the young guy, is it Mohammed Debi, to run for election, because I think all this maneuvering is just to make sure that he can run for election. Now, let me make this point very clear. Okay. Um, I have never had a problem with whoever govern a specific country. I have never thought that what made a good leader was whether he was civilian or a military. I have only thought of what made a good leader is a person who sees a problem and look for a solution. If a leader is working hard, is working towards making the lives of his people better, then it doesn't matter if that leader is a military man or a civilian. To me, it makes no difference, because all we want is development. All we want is progress. Like, for example, the young leader of Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traore, is a guy with vision from what I have seen so far, and from what he has been doing since when he took power, has brought a lot of hope to people in Burkina Faso. Maybe he might change in the future like they all do. That is a possibility. But as of now, he is doing a great job for the people in Burkina Faso. Likewise, in Mali, and like in our previous story, in Niger, they are all working so hard to build up these countries. So I think this is what Africa need to do. We need to focus less on quote unquote democracy, and they focus more on building a better life for the people in our respective countries. If we could just spend more time trying to figure out our developmental problems rather than running for election and re-elections, I think we will go far, because there are many countries that do not even bother about elections. Those countries are way more better than us in Africa. But we wish the people of Chad all the best in their referendum, and we hope that whatever they choose is what they want, and it's going to be what serves them best. Our test story for today is from Congo. Ahead of the Congo vote, young stars crave jobs. Yeah, I think this is something that has been very common in Africa. Um, Unemployment is a big problem in Africa. It's really, really a problem in Africa. And that is why you see a huge number of Africans will risk their life just to get to Europe, just to get to America. You ask yourself, Africa that is rich with so much, we have like a lot of resources. How come we cannot take care of our own people? How come we are still the poorest continent in the whole world? How come we cannot get constant electricity, constant water, basic income jobs? How come? This is 2023. Yet still, some of the most common things, that is like the basic things that humans need for survival, we in Africa still cannot get it. It's really, really a big problem. And that was why I said before that if our leaders really spend more time, thinking about how to resolve these issues rather than thinking about themselves, that is going to be very, very helpful. But let's see what the article is saying. Gideon, 22, driving his auto rickshaw through the bustling streets of DR Congo, capital Kinshasa, said he never imagined he would end up doing the job he does. Like many young people in the deeply impoverished Central African nation, he said he had high hopes that the government can deliver a better future. I want to go back to school, said Gideon, who has worked as a rickshaw driver for 5 years. He wants to become an electrical engineer, he explained, but poverty stopped him from attending university, which is a very common thing in Africa. Like, we have a lot of people with dreams and aspirations, but due to the situation in Africa, things really do not work out for us. Things are really not working out for us. And our political elites haven't been very helpful, to say the least. And I know, sometimes we also must do our part. We, the people, must do our part. But I believe that, like the leader who doubles as the father of the nation, his job is to clear the path, to create a path that his children will use and then meet success. If a leader of a country, instead of looking out for the people in the country, decided to maybe look out for himself or herself, what is left for the people? What faith is left for the people? And that is why you see many youngsters in Africa, like Gideon, who have big dreams, who are smart, who could change the face of Africa, have little to no access to education, have little to no access to the things that would make him become who he wanna be. It's really shocking when you see stuff like this happening. When you hear stories like this, you begin to ask yourself, why Africa? Why Africa? So let's see our next story for today. This one is from South Africa. South Africa ex-president Jacob Zuma, my man, Zuma, the guy who couldn't call figures. And he thought that us, the viewers or the listeners, were the problem. He said, listen carefully, listen carefully. Zuma. So let's see. South African ex-president Jacob Zuma has denounced the ANC and pledged to vote for a new party. Yeah, he's not going to vote for his party anymore. He has denounced the party and he has decided to choose a new party. So let's see what the story was saying. These people are funny. I love African politicians. You know, there's one thing about them, right? They always look out for themselves. African politicians always looked out for themselves. If you thought that they were looking out for you, my brother, I'm sorry, they are not. They are looking out for themselves. But let's see. Former President Jacob Zuma on Saturday denounced the governing African National Congress Party and announced that he would vote for a newly formed political formation in South Africa's general election next year. Zuma, who was president of the ANC from 2007 to 2017, said that he's backing the newly formed Umkhonto we Sizwe party that is named after the ANC's newly deformed military wing, which was disbanded after the deliberation struggle. Yeah. So Zuma is breaking away from his party and they're teaming up with a newly formed party. And according to Zuma, he hasn't been treated fairly from the party. So he would rather just join the new party and maybe hopefully he might get a ruling position in the newly formed party. Because remember, in Africa, it's never about the people. It's never about the country as a whole. It's about oneself. African politicians have made that very clear, that it's never about the people, it's never about the country, it's about themselves. And so they will do whatever they have to do to make sure that they protect themselves. This is so strange.